Hello, Dr. Shiny here. I have a tarot reading for Aries for the month of May. I am also going to be doing mid-month readings from now on, so please tune back in 2 weeks for that. I'm going to get right to your reading today. For your current situation for Aries, we have the Six of Wands, and the Six of Wands represents sort of getting to a place to where regarding your comfort and your ability of having your own will done and that kind of thing, you're in a place to where you have the skill required so that you can block out external influences, so you can sort of remain unchallenged for the time being at least. But there is a sense that that might lead to a little boredom or exhaustion. So what this is saying is it's like maybe you spent the first part of your life feeling like you were kind of in the frying pan, and then you finally figured out that you could sort of like jump to get momentary relief from that frying pan. But rather than just keep jumping up and down and doing the same thing, you could just actually like jump out and go to a new place, be in a new place where you don't have to deal with that at all, right? So what's influencing you is the Eight of Wands, which would be exactly what I'm talking about. This is sort of making the decision to go to a new stage, go to a new platform, go to a new place where different opportunities are available and a different set of circumstances or options which will give you the opportunity to really move toward your thought streams and your desires, right? So, and that'll lead you to happiness, you know, because it's really about following that inner guiding light is what it's about. The past, or what got you here, is the King of Cups. This is somebody who has a really high degree, a mature degree of control over their emotional state, their emotional stability. They're able to channel their emotions into action, into creating structure and stability. Or rallying people. I don't want to say control because that has a little bit of a negative connotation, but influencing people by force, we'll put it that way. Now, for the future, if you get through this situation, or if you do go on this journey or learn from it properly, you'll have the Three of Cups. And the Three of Cups represents, and this keeps coming up, this is the third reading I've done with the Three of Cups in the future position so far. So this one is a common theme here. This represents completion of cycles, or not necessarily completion of cycles, but completion of a difficult part of a journey, right? So if you are a person who just sits around and does nothing and doesn't ever go through dangerous circumstances or challenging things, then you're not very interesting, to be honest, and you're not very interested in anything either. But let's say you are one of the few people that climb Mount Everest or something. Well, if you meet another person who's climbed Everest, then all of a sudden you're best friends. You know what I mean? Even complete strangers, because you've been through the same challenges, you've been through the same struggles, and you've learned the same lessons, and so you become more like those people, and you start to you appreciate and understand what makes those people tick, because it's somewhat the same thing that makes you tick. So there's a natural affinity. It's like your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So that's what essentially this means, is that if you, instead of being scared to move or scared to go out and assert yourself or do new things, if you actually make some decisions, you're going to automatically draw yourself toward people who are more like what you need to be, right? To be happy. So the foundation of the situation is the Ace of Coins, and the Ace of Coins represents a new opportunity in the material, physical world, or new circumstance, new house opportunity, moving opportunity, something like that, or possibly a new job, or just something that is material, not necessarily like just an idea or something like that. Something has changed in the circumstance that feels as though it is working for your benefit, and it's unexpected a little bit. It's just sort of coming from heaven, you know, manna from heaven, that type of thing. So that's the foundation of this situation, is you're just being sort of given a gift of what it looks like is relief, being a gift or being given a gift of a challenge so that you can get to a place where you're relieved, where you're happy and fulfilled. What's on your mind or your crowning thoughts is the Three of Wands, and the Three of Wands represents sort of the initial completion of, let's put it this way. Okay, let's say you want to be a really good piano player or something like that. Or better yet, let's say you want to write a beautiful concert piece for the piano, right? Well, the first thing that you have to do to be able to do that is to learn how to play the piano yourself. So you can't skip that step. You can't go straight from being a, totally never touching a piano before to going to writing the piano piece. So what you have to do is you have to first achieve that initial goal of learning to play the piano. And when you've done that, when you've invested enough time and energy into that goal, then the new door is now open for you and you can walk through that one. But you've got to focus on them one at a time, And so this represents that period. This represents the period of focusing on the initial skill rather than getting ahead of yourself and trying to work out the fine details when you haven't really gotten close enough yet, The advice for your current situation is the Lover's card. This represents choice. This represents choosing or committing to or making a decision which will lead you to happiness. This is what your whole reading is about. This is, instead of just floating and hovering in one place, this is about doing what you want, doing what's deep down in you, And it's kind of cool too, because your current environment is the sun, which is everything out in the open, the known, what you can see, it's not in the shadow. And so this is where you've been, this is what you've constructed your life to be, is where there aren't many unknowns, where things are relatively safe, and maybe at the beginning that was your sort of idea of heaven, is things being just really safe for you. But now you're starting to recognize that if everything is just really safe, you just get really bored, right? And you almost self-destruct. It's like you almost don't even have the will to live if you don't have some challenge involved in your life, So what this is saying is that the challenge doesn't have to be reckless. The challenge exists within yourself, within your own mind, if you can learn how to bring it out in a controlled way, right? So in your fears, in contrast to your environment, what's in your fears is the moon. So you've got the sun in your environment, but you're fearing the moon. So you're fearing that period of night. You're fearing the negatives, the points of the cycle which are not the fun ones to go through. And that's natural, but it's also important to recognize that these cycles are very necessary. Like if you're a plant, you get all of your food, your sustenance from the sun. So when the sun goes down, you can imagine, if you, let's say you were a conscious plant, you can imagine when the sun goes down, you might get a little anxious during that time period because you have no food, no sustenance, nothing supporting you during that period. And you just have to sort of have faith that the sun is going to come back up the next morning, right? So we fear the unknown, the darkness, right? But there are answers in there. The other side of who we are rests in the unknown, in the shadows. So if you can confront it, if you can go through it, or stand up to it, face it, name it, and move toward it, your wildest dreams are sort of waiting behind the door of fear, right? So you don't have to fear the subconscious, but your overall message for this reading is pretty applicable here. You have the Hierophant, which represents the Pope, the leader of the church, established religion, that kind of thing. But more importantly, what this is saying is it's giving you a path to sort of unifying your experience of the sun and the moon to be a positive. And that is to journal, to write out your thoughts, your what makes you tick, what makes you get up in the morning, you know, that kind of thing. If you journal it out, if you start to think about your belief system, externalize it, and be able to look at it and name it, you'll be able to change it. You'll be able to alter it. And so that's sort of the point of religion. What religion is, everyone, in my opinion, everyone has a religion, but religious people are the people who talk about what their religion is. Okay, so even if you don't subscribe to any known religion, you latently have this inner belief structure, and you might not even go as far as to, you know, put any sort of authoritative labels on it or anything like that. You might just think that's the way it is, but it's still a system of religion or theology which you live your life by. The underlying rules which govern your morality and your life and that kind of thing. So if you can put some effort into externalizing it instead of just merely conforming to somebody else's idea of it, if you put effort into externalizing it yourself and looking at it and journaling, you gain some power of control to make changes and tweaks so that you have a vision that kind of fits into where your reality is a little better. So it's a way of improving yourself through facing the darker side of yourself, the things that you normally don't want to think about. If there's a reason for something to provoke sort of a visceral emotional reaction, it's usually that there's a really important lesson for you to learn behind it, you know. So that's a little scary, but it's also kind of comforting because once you start to recognize that, you recognize that nothing is really out to get you. It's all for your benefit if you look at it from the right perspective. If you approach the situation the correct way, you can turn anything into a positive. So that's your reading for May, and I will see you guys at the mid-month reading in 2 weeks. Have a good one.